Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Sunil Chavan. I'm the Vice President for FlashBlade Business for Pure Storage at Asia Pacific. Today I'm going to talk about Pure Storage approach to build a unified cloud for our customers. Now, what is a unified cloud? I think most of you have dealt into private cloud for longest time, and we've been hearing since morning AWS approach with so many offerings coming with public cloud in terms of how to avail these services. We also look at customers developing a lot of web scale application to avail the advantage of cloud offering. What Pure has come up with is an approach where you can actually stretch your private cloud into public cloud, and we've launched certain specific cloud services for you to get into that process and do the same. So what does that mean? Cloud has been there for last 15 odd years. AWS started around that time. The initial euphoria about being a private cloud and then trying to use the benefits of cloud was always there. But really, cloud took on about 4 or 5 years back from enterprise application point of view. What does that mean? Now, when you started talking to CIOs about 3, 4 years back, they started saying, my strategy is cloud first, or I want to do a cloud-only strategy for all my application. And everybody started dabbling into the cloud in different way. The current situation very clearly is that customer realize, all of you have realized that on-prem applications are going to stay on-prem. There will be some of the stuff which can move onto the cloud, and you will have a lot of web scale applications or new applications which you can put it onto public cloud. So people have dabbled into different cloud approaches and different cloud providers. A lot of people use SaaS-based offering for them to how to take it to the cloud, and on-prem applications stay on-prem and just don't go anywhere. So net of it is, much of the conversation, should I run my application on-prem or should I take it to the cloud? Any new applications coming, any new service you want to launch, any new thought process you have from a web scale application, or I think a speaker before talked about machine learning or data analytics kind of service, we want to know and get the ease of use of cloud into our enterprise application. So that's where both these things going on. What I see more and more, CIOs are very clearly saying, both approaches are good. I have some applications, monolithic applications running on-prem, and all these new applications we have developed are going to go to the cloud. But some other things change. Just about 2 years back, and we started seeing this new modern application development mechanism. We got into microservices and APIs. So all our application development is now looking at containerization approach and how can we work on containers. Now that changed approach completely again, that if I have an on-prem application and I have something on the cloud, what does that mean if my application is running as a microservice? So I need to stretch that application so that it can use data sets across different cloud providers. I can have some cloud, my own private cloud on-prem, but I want to avail this variety of applications or offerings from AWS and make sure my web scale application, which I've developed on containerized strategy, I want to ensure that it takes the data sets from my on-prem application as well as what is available on the cloud. So my data store has kind of spread around, and my application has become what I now call hybrid application. So the containerization strategy has changed how we are going to develop application going forward. Why we as a Pure talking about this today? We were a startup 7 8 years back. I think now we are the largest or the fastest $2 billion infrastructure IT company in the world. But 6 years back, when we actually shipped our first box to our customer, we really decided that we want to, day one onwards, we want to have a SaaS-based management and support application for our customer. So we develop our customer management and support application called PureOne. It runs on AWS from day one. It's been 6 years, fantastic process, and we said we're not going to invest our time and energy as a startup with limited budget, small staff. We wanted to be onto the cloud. So PureOne, which is our real-time IoT AI application, does preemptive maintenance for customer, runs on AWS. As we started growing, we realized that all my customer data set or customer database is in my Salesforce application, and we use SFDC, Salesforce, for our public cloud. So we have to take certain information from Salesforce dataset as well as from how the PureOne runs on AWS. So I now have two public cloud provider managing giving me information for the same PureOne application. Come 4 years down the line, today we have 6,000 customers, and I really have to do really deep crunching AI machine learning thought process with PureOne. I think we realize that the flexibility we want and the performance we need to have some data sets on-prem. So we moved some data sets on-prem and created our colo facility and direct connect with AWS. So now what has happened in this whole process? That the application we started as a AWS certified and AWS run application. For customer information requirement, I have to again delve into Salesforce application. To improve the performance and flexibility what I need to manage that application, I moved it on containerization strategy. I needed some data set on my on-prem so that I can actually make sure certain data crunching happens very quickly and I can get some preemptive support activities for my customer. So same application, but it has become hybrid. What we have realized, all our customers are going through the same process. They're looking at what those applications are, which are on-prem and which are going towards a containerization strategy, or the new applications are coming up. If they're starting on cloud, maybe eventually they'll go on to on-prem, depending on how the application and the business is developing in that process. So you have to think about a constant improvement on application front, as well as have to have automation underneath in your infrastructure to support the entire support this ecosystem. So it's an application view I'm presenting, and you can actually relate it back to the entire IT strategy. It's exactly going the same way. A single application starts from cloud, comes to on-prem, or starts on-prem and go to cloud. Most of my discussions today with CIOs are in this manner only, where they say, I want to see some of these applications, how they can go to the cloud. Or if I have this application service I started using on AWS, but now the application is so big and so critical, I need certain data sets to be on-prem, and I need to make sure that avail both data sets holistically across location or across my on-prem or public cloud strategy. So what is the fundamental theme what I see now? CIO is asking us is, I need to develop an IT strategy which avails my on-prem cloud as well as gives me flexibility to use any of my public cloud like AWS. And that's where the most of the discussion is happening. And we realize, how we dealt with PureOne was one of the best example how a lot of customers are going through this process. Fundamentally, still, I see, and in our market, at least in Asia Pacific, and I've worked across this market for last 10 years, dealt with a lot of customers around cloud strategies and how they're going to go about cloud. There are two very clear distinct silos still exist. There is this on-prem hosted application architecture, and there is certain web scale applications being developed which are availing the PaaS services on AWS very holistically and efficiently. So there are these two architecture exist in the application world today. Obviously, the consumption model also varies. When you do certain things on-prem, you have to have dedicated hardware, capex, or operational capex. That's what the new term I call it. You lease your on-prem environment, but it's predominantly you own, you manage, and you run, and it's a manual management you go through. The moment you look at AWS-based offering and a particular application, you're actually going really availing the true cloud benefits around on-demand consumption and API everything. So you have to have the APIs-based approach with your new web-scale application. But fundamentally, when it comes to the infrastructure, the storage layer, nothing much has changed. That's the unfortunate scenario what we have seen so far. Dedicated storage arrays specific to a particular application set. There is highly reliable. You look at 5, 9 SLAs, and you have to look at the tier 1 application supporting these activities on-prem. A lot of features all the way from your virtual machine stack going into infrastructure stack to support this application. The moment you look at AWS, you have EBS and EFS and S3, which is really simple, scalable, hugely scalable. When you talk about S3, 11 lines availability kind of a thinking, and used for really cloud-native scalable applications, and proponent of shared storage services may not have the similar enterprise-grade storage activities what normally customers have been using for last 20 odd years. So what this whole process and where this is going now is what we call a data-centric architecture. Customer needs and share fast data across their application. No more any application or any business requirement says, my data is coming slow, it's okay. It's not okay anymore. So you need really fast, shared database data, which is kind of managing your application process. It has to be on demand and automated so that it avails on-prem as well as the cloud benefits what you get out of that. Obviously, security and reliability is the fundamental backbone of it. And the next part, which I was just talking about, we did at PureOne, it has to be hybrid. You cannot look at certain application and say, yeah, this application I'll start with cloud and can remain on a public cloud. There will be some scenarios for certain specific reason you have to have certain thing on-prem, or your existing on-prem application has to look at cloud, and so you have to design your application from that context, and it has to be constantly on, and application should be improving. What does that mean? Simply put, API based or microservices based web scale development. I think that's what it means. That if you have these 4 or 5 key fundamental features, you are actually decoupling your application from your infrastructure, and you are thinking from my data-centric architecture in the sense that my decision-making process is based on the data which I own. I don't want my data to be siloed in my on-prem thought process. It has to spread across different cloud. And when I say multi-cloud, it can mean my on-prem and my AWS cloud. So both has to work very holistically, and a seamless approach has to come through. That's what data-centric architecture, which we are promoting today with our customers. So what does that mean? Our mission is to help our customer to unify these two worlds. You have this on-prem cloud, and build your own cloud has been a theme for last 10 to 12 years. There's a lot of vendors in the market talking about it. We work very closely with most of the virtual machine providers or VMware kind of companies doing these activities for providing SDDC to the customer. That thought process is on, and Pure is a big proponent of that. We have a lot of our customers, as I said, almost 6,000 customers have their own private cloud running in their environment. But at the same time, we completely believe that the approach is everybody wants to have that hybridness, or really look at the cloud benefits what AWS offer, and we heard a lot of them since morning, and those benefits have to come into their on-prem applications. So we are really building that bridge where customer can seamlessly move data across their on-prem activities as well as any offering they want to use from AWS. So with this in mind, we recently announced, and as recent as 6 months back, we announced our new set of cloud services, very specifically keeping data-centric architecture in mind. And over next 10 to 12 minutes, I'll just touch upon some of these offerings to give an overview where this is leading. The first thing we launched is Cloud Block Store for AWS. So Cloud Block Store is available on AWS. It's currently in beta, and we are currently going through that process to make sure it's available with our customers. They can use this. What does it mean? Customers have flash array, the block storage from us on-prem, running beautifully on private cloud, and now we are offering the same stuff on AWS. It's highly reliable. It's offering the same features what we have on-prem are available now on cloud. So you're familiar with AWS EBS offering, you're familiar with S3 offering. This is, you can compare and say this is something similar to EBS. Why is this important? As I said, I have 6,000 customers. They are running their private cloud on those block storage on-prem. They want this cloud block service from us available on AWS today, so that they can avail the best of both worlds. They can stretch seamlessly the APIs of the web scale application and start availing benefits of on-prem data center what they have, as well as the cloud block service service we launch. There are seamless APIs we have developed. So it's all based on REST APIs, so that applications can be stretched to use data sets on-prem as well as cloud block store on the cloud. The third key benefit which today we make sure is available to our customer is you can start using our software features like active cluster. I can actually have an active cluster across 2 availability zones on AWS, or maybe 1 availability zone on in the data center and 1 on AWS availability zone. So I can have an active cluster, and I can save a lot of money. The whole thing is we want to make sure that you get the same benefits what you get on on-prem block storage thought process when you use cloud block store on AWS, and you get the benefits of availing the cloud services in the same breath. So absolutely, the whole thing is kind of stitched together. We are a big proponent of how this works on AWS, and right now going through beta process with many customers. The service will be available soon, but that's the first service we have launched. I touched upon PureOne, which is our management and orchestration layer. PureOne from day one, and it's been 6 years, is running on cloud. It's running on AWS. That's been a very critical component of our strategy to take our on-prem storage onto hybridness and bring it to AWS. So I can actually monitor support from PureOne, and it can do a stretching from pure on-prem storage, pure flash arrays, as well as cloud block store, which is available on the cloud. I can actually stretch this entire bridge or create this storage software bridge and data management bridge so that it can look at this on a single pane of glass. So I have a single control pane. I can see both activities, which is going and spreading around between both my on-prem store as well as cloud block store on AWS. APIs are consistent. There are plugins for AWS formation templates, VMware automations, and full stack orchestration utilizing the underlying AWS infrastructure on cloud. So basically what we have done is we just put Cloud Block Store as a software, runs on, avails all the benefits what AWS offers today, and present it back to on-prem stack what we have for our flash arrays, and make sure you can make a hybrid cloud available for you as to get the benefits from this service. Once you go to have your tier 1 block storage, CloudSnap is the next thing. You have to have some kind of a snapshot backup in terms of how you present it back and store that information. So we launched CloudSnap for AWS. There are two ways people can look at this whole approach. One, I can have rapid recovery on-prem, where I can store some of these snapshots on-prem, make sure they're available, and I have this product called FlashBlade. So if certain data sets I need to recover faster, I can have rapid recovery on-prem. And some of them I don't need very quickly. I can actually store the snapshot separately, aggregate them on AWS. So CloudSnap from us is like a snapshot bundled together with metadata and segregated away from actual storage and stored on AWS. If I do that very easily, I've basically created a backup or a DR or business continuity function for you availing the entire AWS benefits when I go with CloudSnap on AWS. So it can replace your storage requirement around tape replacement will come in very quickly, and it will really look at thought process of DR or migration to cloud in a simple, easy way. So CloudSnap really thinks and comes from that activities of it. Your tier 1 storage, which is your block storage, which is flash, I can use CloudSnap to take a snapshot, store some of it on-prem to some rapid recovery. The rest of that goes on the cloud on AWS. So these two services will work hand in hand. Both services will come together. Right now they've been in the beta process. We are going to launch it soon, and these are the two critical offerings from us, which you will see. Third world, which is very interesting aspect. You looked at tier 1 storage. The second aspect is backup. For last 10 to 12 years, backup has been stored and a typical purpose-built backup appliances. Typically that's what the term been used, and you must be using technologies like data domain from EMC, and a lot of HP and a lot of infrastructure vendor have backup applications. Beautiful technology, but a 10-year-old technology meant to do backup on-prem, but have zero restore capability. I cannot restore any data from these activities. In today's world, I can't afford to have data backed up and can't use it for any work. It is required for my test dev activities, is required for my AI machine learning thought process. If I need to compliance a change and I need to take out certain data and restore it for any specific activity, I must use that data set. Today, most of these purpose-built backup appliances really don't offer any restore performance. I cannot really pull out that data. And when I have a strong service available like AWS S3, which is available across multiple zones with 11 lines availability present to me, having a purpose-built backup appliance on-prem and not utilizing that data for any of this requirement is actually wasting my time and critical resources which are really not helping me in this process. And I think that's the problem we want to solve. We acquired this company called StoreReduce 4 or 5 months back, and we come up with this product called Object Engine. StoreReduce was a very beautiful on Dedupe fabric, which was always available, working with AWS very closely for last so many years. What it does is really a simple online Dedupe fabric, stays on-prem, and it can look at all your tier 1 data backed up. It will dedupe it as best as it can with the best abilities of dedupe what is available to you, and it's available on S3 interface. It will take that entire data set, dedupe data, and move it to AWS S3. Store Reduce already have many customers with AWS S3. One of the big customer is Globe Telecom in Philippines, really doing this backup to AWS S3 for a long time. Now, since our acquisition, I think we are really going to make it in a way that I want to make sure the backup is available to our customers in a very holistic way to restore very quickly. So what we see more and more customers going to do, they'll have backup, they'll replace their backup appliances with Store Reduce or Object Engine, and they will keep certain data set on-prem with FlashBlade, restore for quick restore. Rest of the data sets will move on to AWS S3. So if I have, suppose, 500 terabyte of backup data, maybe 50 to 100 terabyte I need to access immediately for certain business workload or for a compliance reason, I'll keep it on-prem on my FlashBlade technology from Pure, access it very quickly. Rest of the backup data, instead of putting on a backup appliance, I'll move to AWS S3. I don't need to store it on-prem. It's costly, it's cumbersome, it's maintenance. When you look at your TCO over 5 years, I think very easily you can save 30 to 40% if you look at this new architecture which we are promoting with Object Engine and AWS S3. The end result of this, what we see, we have just launched this product. It's gone GA recently. I have a 4-node appliance available on-prem, which will eventually offer, I think, in next quarter and 2 months down the line, I'll have direct access to AWS S3. And next phase, which is towards the end of this calendar year, we'll have Object Engine as a software available as an EC2 instance on AWS and can back up straight onto S3. So as a customer, you have 3 options for some of your data set on-prem or some large monolithic on-prem application. You can start using Object Engine on-prem, but some new applications you come up with or some new data sets you already have web scale application running on EC2, you can just take Object Engine as a EC2 service and start backing up onto S3. I think so that's the kind of flexibility we want to offer and get rid of this notion of having a large backup appliance on-prem, which is really difficult to maintain and manage and not really conducive to restore any data. I think once we have such a great offering available to us from AWS S3, why do you have to waste our time in storing certain thing on-prem which we are not able to use for technology limitations that technology had, which was so old technology. The end result I see with this is a scenario which a lot of customers are talking to us today. I have site A on-prem, I have this application, production application, and maybe on site A, I have 2 different backup softwares, Veritas and Veeam, that's what I use. I will maybe move that, directly work from Veritas and Veeam, bring the data onto Object Engine, put it on FlashBlade so that if some data sets I need to recover quickly, it's available to me. But bulk of the data, which really meant for archive purpose, I move to AWS S3 bucket. This is integrated with S3 as well as infrequent access, purely from costing point of view, depending on how you see the data to be used, and I can avail that side of things. I will have some application eventually running on cloud. There I can use Object Engine on cloud itself. I can do the same thing and have a separate data set of archive going to AWS S3 bucket. So I can literally paint a picture where some of the on-prem application keep some data on-prem for restore purpose. Rest of the data is going to AWS S3. Is deduped so that by the time actual data goes to cloud, you really are talking about 1/10 of the data what is going to the backup, and the cost goes down. You can have maybe another site which may be using a third different software for backup, which is maybe Commvault. I can actually link back to the same thing with Object Engine and bring it to AWS S3 in the same way. So this is a very common scenario I see today. Most of the customers we talk to, whether it's a bank or a telco, healthcare, government organization, at least have 2 or 3 different backup software, have 2 or 3 different backup appliances, have 2 or 3 different sites where they have stored their tapes, and we want to say, get rid of the tapes. When you have such a beautiful, amazing service available with AWS S3, you should not be wasting your time with tapes. We want to give you a way to move your data set very quickly onto AWS S3, get rid of the tape. At the same time, keep some data on-prem maybe with our FlashBlade products for a quick restore. So it's creating a data protection ecosystem in a hybrid cloud way. And that's where this backup world is moving to. I don't see, I think give it another 6 to 9 months, we'll see more examples like that. We already have some customers going through that process with us, and we can share more examples soon. But this is the world we see with backup going forward. Very heavily reliant on AWS S3 from large chunk of backup which is going there, but there will be that on-prem object engine looking at this activity in a big way. So that's it, guys. I mean, when we talk about this cloud data service, very simply put, three key offerings. But as I started saying first, right, we want to offer a bridge to unify two worlds: the world of on-prem monolithic applications running there, and the web scale application which you are having on cloud, or cloud services you're already using. We want to just bridge that gap by offering a simple, holistic, seamless, API-driven approach where you can manage these two worlds on a single pane of glass and avail these services and make sure application is hybrid enough to look at these two activities together. And it's not just from a activity from a block storage or a tier 1 application point of view, but we're changing how backup is thought process is coming going forward. So that's where we are. If you want to know more about this, just right behind us, you will come to our booth. We will share more information on this, and more than happy to have more further discussion on how we're going to help on this process for you. So thank you for your time. Back to you.